Coolermaster's classic HAF series is making a return with HAF 500. Built for high airflow and peak performance, the HAF 500 boasts 200mm large intake ARGB fans, ensuring unparalleled intake and cooling efficiency. It's 2022, so you no longer have support for 5¼ optical drives. But rest assured, HAF. When Coolermaster launched the H500P in 2017, it was named Master Case and was unrelated to HAF. So here in 2022, we can be happy that HAF 500 breaks new ground and in no way is a warmed over Master Case H500. Thank goodness we can clear up that potential confusion. So what is the HAF 500 all about? Let's remove the very lightly tinted tempered glass panel. It has a retaining screw at the back that you don't need to use day in, day out. It's just for shipping. Pops loose. Around the back, plain steel panel, which is retained by 2 captive thumb screws. No noise deadening material. And here we have a case that looks very similar to the H500. It's more airflow oriented at the front. Mesh front panel. Okay, reach inside for 3 latches. Let me show you those. Kind of hidden away here. And then same again on this side. With your 12th hand. Ow, that didn't hurt. Right, so the panel is retained with 6 plastic latches. At the front of the case we have 2 ARGB fans rated up to 800 RPM. At the rear we have a 120 ARGB fan rated at 1800 RPM. And here we have another 1800 RPM fan that moves and is situated on top of the drive cage. The idea is that you can deflect air towards your graphics card should you choose, or I guess you can leave it laid down like that, in which case you're drawing air up through the drive tower. And here we have a fan control hub, handles both ARGB and PWM. Obviously we can use it for the fans that come installed in the case. You can either choose to control the ARGB from your motherboard, or you can connect that cable there to the front panel, and then the reset button, instead of being a reset button, becomes your ARGB mode control. The front I/O has 2 USB 3.0 Type A's, power button, headset jack, and 1 Type C, plus that dual function reset ARGB button. In terms of storage around the back, we have mounts for 2 2.5 SSDs or possibly hard drives. And here we have a couple of combo 2.5, 3.5 inch drive bays with pins to retain the drives. For cooling, we can install a 280 or 360 rad in the front and a 280 or 360 rad in the roof. Realistically, given that we've got those 200mm fans up front, I doubt we're going to be putting liquid cooling in the front of the case, which means we're looking at the roof. That's reasonable enough. And if we remove these 2 screws, and away comes the top panel, nice and easy. In fact, oh, I see, it's located on these little bent tags. So it's a little like the engagement mechanism for a side panel. It pushes in there, and that's now held in place. Drops down, 2 screws just locate it. And now you've got complete access to the innards of your case, and of course you can install your liquid cooler in the roof, drop it down. I quite like that. We have a case that promises airflow in its very name, so let's build a PC that's going to use that airflow, starting with an Intel Core i9-12900K, some G-Skill Ripjaws S5 DDR5 memory, an SSD from PNY from their Accelerate range, motherboard, Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Master. Power supply, Coolermaster's own MWE 750 watt gold. Graphics card Sapphire RX 6800 XT. And the cooler from MSI is their MegCore Liquid S360, which ought to fit neatly in the roof. I'm expecting this build to be nice and straightforward, so let's crack on and get some hardware inside the HAF 500. Clearly I can't reinstall the stock Gigabyte heatsink on top of the M.2 drive, but the heatsink on the Accelerate, although it's a lot smaller than the Gigabyte heatsink, it looks the part. Motherboard ready to go in the HAF 500. I may possibly have made an error in my choice of power supply, as this Coolermaster supports 2 double-headed graphics cables, but only one 8-pin EPS connector. And I've literally got no idea whether the Z690 platform requires the 2 8-pins on the motherboard to actually run correctly, because I've not tried it. Anyway, I'm going to press ahead with the Coolermaster power supply, and in the event it's a problem, I'll pull it out and substitute something more beefy. The power supply does not go in from the rear. This is all fixed in place. Remove this thumb screw. And here we have more tabs. And out it comes. I mean, it's a thing. It looks a bit uninspiring. In terms of installing the power supply, doesn't get a lot easier, does it? Feed the cables through here. Replace the shroud and route the cables up the back. We don't really have a lot of space there. I mean, it's a solid steel panel going on, so it's all going to be covered, but it's not exactly sophisticated. Top of the case completely open. Motherboard installation should be really straightforward. The Master has an integrated I/O shield, as so many higher motherboards do these days, so ordinarily you just offer it like so and drop it down. However, I'm holding the weight because it's quite a hefty piece of kit, it's clashing with the fan on the drive cage. I suppose the obvious question is, can I remove the drive tower, install the motherboard, and then reinstall the drive tower? Okay, screw that down and then we'll give this a go. With the motherboard installed and all this lovely access, we offer up the drive tower complete with the fan. And lock it down. And now you can see that the bracket there overshadows the front panel connectors on the Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Master, which is not great. The thing is, it's only overshadowing that particular part of the board because I've gone for this specific E80X motherboard, which is 259mm in width. I could have gone up to that wide, in which case we'd be blocking some other part of the motherboard. I don't think that Coolermaster's thought that one through. 80X, no problem at all. Once you go wider than 80X, those fan mounts, they're an issue. Cables connected to the motherboard and some cable management of sorts done around the back. Worth pointing out, I'm using the hub for RGB control, but not for PWM control. I've connected the 4 fans to at the front, the graphics fan and the rear fan, directly to the motherboard because I've got loads of connectors available, and these fans are only 800 RPM. These fans operate at double the speed. Of course, I haven't yet put the liquid cooler on the CPU. We have that as a separate thing. But if I have all the fans connected to the hub, then 50%, 100%, very different speeds. So let's install the graphics card and hook up the power. And now we're ready for the CPU cooler. And our liquid cooler is this MSI Meg Core Liquid S360, which excitingly is brand new and unused. Before I do that, I'm going to boldly snap the front panel in place because I've got no need to go in the front again. Have to say, goes on a heck of a sight easier than it comes off. Right, put that to one side. Actually, let's just offer up the liquid cooler. In this case, supports a 360, but you know, till we try it. Yeah, that looks promising. Here we go. Feed the fan cables through this handy little hole. Well, that seems straightforward. Let's just lock it in place. There's a few cables to sort out, like that. And naturally there's more stuff to hide away around the back. But we're ready now to start the PC and see how it behaves. The LCD on the MSI cooler is rotated 90 degrees. And now that's sorted out, the PC looks neat and tidy. That's my testing complete. And before I get to the burning issue of the day, what exactly is this fan here doing? Let me tell you what I've been up to. So the Core i9 12900K is set to 195 watts, performance cores running at 4.9 gigahertz, so that's default. And my RX 6800 XT is pulling 255 watts board power running at 2 gigahertz. At the wall socket, the whole PC is drawing 625 or so watts while it's running a combination of TimeSpy stress test and Cinebench R23. I ran the fans in 2 configurations, basically half speed and full speed. The about half speed actually resulted in the front fans running at 450 RPM and the rear and GPU fans running at 1100 RPM. The fans on the MSI radiator were running at 1400 RPM. It sounded like this. And then I cranked up the fans to full speed. So the front fans running at 800 RPM, the GPU and rear fans running at 1800 RPM, and the fans on the MSI cooler running at 2000 RPM. And it sounded like this. Yes, indeed. So this is quiet mode, which is indeed quiet. On that half speed mode, it's pretty blooming quiet. Full speed, it's rackety. There's no denying that HAF, high airflow, does indeed flow air. The question is, what benefit does it bring you? The figures I'm showing you are measured figures, not deltas. The ambient here is 18.5, so slightly on the cool side. With the fans at half speed, the CPU is running at 81 degrees Celsius, and the GPU at 77 degrees Celsius. With the GPU fan disabled, I literally unplugged it from the motherboard, the temperatures did not change at all. Truth be told, I'm not surprised. I don't see any reason why that fan would help airflow in a case like this with all this cooling going on. Cranking up the fans to full speed, that noisy configuration, the CPU temperature dropped 5 degrees to 77, the GPU temperature dropped 1 degree to 76. That's quite impressive. However, in that configuration, frankly, the system was too noisy for me to entertain. So you have to take the first set of figures in my mind and take those as being the reasonable figures for this case. And what do I think of the HAF 500? Pros first, the positive points. When you remove this top panel, you have excellent access to the interior doing the build. Really good. The airflow is good. It delivers on the HAF name. That fan hub, which I admittedly barely used, helps you out with both ARGB and PWM control. That's a useful little feature to have. The cons. That GPU fan, well, it clashes with an E80X motherboard. So not only is it unnecessary, it's also annoying. Personally, I'd be cutting those mounts off, but that to me is a mistake. The front panel clips, there's 3 on each side, they're awkward. You have to reach them to release the panel, snapping the panel back on, easy peasy. The RGB and the front fans in particular, but realistically in the rear fan as well, very basic, quite unimpressive. The design, it looks tired and dated, but the thing is, we know it's 4 years old. It's not a new design, it's a rehashed design, and it's just looking its age. And cable management is uninspired. Now admittedly we have a steel rear panel, you can't see the cables, so you are in a sense just chucking the cables behind the rear panel, and that works perfectly well. But if you have storage around the back, having some more managed cables is a better move. This just does not have that. Overall, this is not a new design. This is not, to my mind, a HAF 500. It's another version of the H500 with a daft fan. We're told the price will be a penny under £140 here in the UK, 139.99. We'll have to see how that goes, because of course with the big shortage, prices barely mean a thing these days. As H500s go from Coolermaster, that's actually pretty cheap. So we can't complain about the price, provided it comes in approximately that level. There's no denying the HAF 500 does do a reasonable job. It just doesn't live up to the name. That's the thing of it. If you think of it as a budget H500, it's fine.